So you got Serval for free, and you probably thought, oh, this is just a filler lightning character. She's not that too crazy. Wrong. You have just been blessed by a beautiful lightning goddess that will shock you away. There's no bias in any way in this message. So if you're here looking to build our lightning rockstar, I'll be talking about Servals, her Lightcones, her team comps, her playstyle, and her traces. My name is Gib, and let's get right into it. Starting off with Serval's traces. Serval's normal, just basic lightning damage to a single enemy. However, she has a talent on top of that where if the character is shocked that she's normal attacking, she will also apply a damage to them as well. So she will do it to the person she's attacking and anyone she has previously shocked. Next, we have Serval's skill, what allows you to apply shock to enemies. When you have her skill at base level, it gives you an 80% chance. However, when you get her first bonus ability, you'll get a 20% increase to that 80%, which allow you to have a 100% shock chance. Her ultimate is pretty simple, just an AoE electric to anyone on the field. This can attack any amount of enemies. However, if you have shock on them, she will reapply the shock for 2 turns. So this allows you to keep your shock up and have good shock up time. In a perfect scenario, if you had your ult up every 2 to 3 rotations, you'd have 100% ult up time, or you'd have 100% shock up time, but not every fight is a perfect scenario. Also keep in mind that if you do your ultimate on enemies that are already shocked, you will do damage twice based on your talent, because her talent will do additional damage whenever she attacks. So this counts as her basic attack, her ultimate, and her skill. Next, let's talk about Serval's technique, Goodnight Bellabog. When you start the fight with Serval's technique, you'll actually apply shock to all of the enemies, which is pretty good for your rotation to keep good shock up time. Let's also talk about Serval's 3 bonus abilities. Her first bonus ability is going to be the most relevant one for now, since most people are around Trailblazer level 30 to 40, in between that area. However, her other 2 bonus abilities are very good as well. She has one where she's going to get energy at the start of the battle, which is really good for ultimate uptime. And then you have Mania, which is going to make it so when you defeat an enemy, you're going to get 20% attack, which is going to be pretty nice. However, for bosses, it's going to fall off, but if the bosses do have summons, it'll be pretty good. This one, however, her bonus ability, Rock and Roll, where you do a 20% increased, is really nice because you get a 100% shock chance, which is really good. Lastly, regarding Serval's kit, let's talk about her talent priority. And her burst is going to be her biggest thing, but you also want to make sure your skill and your basic attack are leveled up. In this game, basic attacks are always going to be the lowest in terms of like what they can max to for your level, so do keep that in mind. But you shouldn't neglect anything, and make sure you're leveling up your skill tree, because the combination of all this is what builds Serval into the nasty AoE DPS that she is. Now that you know what Serval does and why she's so good, let's show how you can make her gooder. So early game, you're just going to run basic, something like the Musketeer of Wild Wheat, which gives you pretty much just a bunch of attack percent, and it gives you scaling on your normal basic attack. But you could also go for the Musketeer 2-piece attack with the Band of Sizzling Thunder, which is a 2-piece electro set, if you get to that point where you want to, add a little bit. Your biggest thing is you're going to want to have your hand and your hat leveled up so that you have base attack and some HP to tank bosses. But late game, what you're going to want to go into for your set is you 100% want to have a 4-piece of the Band of Sizzling Thunder, and your best planetary sets right now is going to be the Space Sealing Station, which you're going to get from World 3 of Simulation at the 2nd difficulty. And this pretty much is going to give you some attack, and when you increase your speed up to the threshold, which is 120, you're going to get another extra attack, which is going to get you up to 24% attack, which is really strong. For main stats, early game, pretty much you just want attack and break effect. Break effect is really strong early game. It'll probably be good late game too. This is an example of my Serval with having 10% break effect versus having no break effect. I can see the damage goes up, but this is early game damage scaling. So think about that late game. For late game, since you're probably going to have all of Serval's traces, you are going to want to go for crit damage, because Serval actually gives herself a lot of crit from her traces. She gets 19.7 crit rate from her traces. So she's going to have a lot of base crit. So you're not going to need that much crit from your relics. You're probably going to be able to get a good crit ratio, like 50%. Also, small note, you probably should only go speed on your boots if you need to match the amount of speed that you need, because you don't have someone giving you speed from your team, or you're not doing simulated universe, to get that extra 12% attack from the planetary set. Now, to sum up all the stats you're going to want in your Serval, you're going to want crit rate or crit damage on your body, crit early, damage late, attack percent on your boots, you're going to want lightning damage on your sphere, and then attack or break effect on your rope, and this can be changed based on what you are fighting. Alright, next I want to inform you on Serval's Lightcones, what's good for her, what's bad for her. The 3 stars, the only one that's really good for Serval is Sega City, but Sega City is going to be beat by the card that you get for Serval, and it's her signature card. Next two best cards are going to be Seriousness of Breakfast and Ching Shui's card. These are really good for just flat damage percent with no constraints. Serval's ult is 100 cost, so you get 20% from this. And Seriousness of Breakfast, you can get refinements for out of the shop. And for every defeated enemy, you get attack percent, and you have damage percent, which you can get more with refinements. Then we have Jing Yuan's weapon and Himiko's weapon. Jing Yuan's weapon is insane, but the thing is, you're wishing on Weapon Banner to get this, so if you do get this and you're using on your Serval, it will be good. Unless you're super based and a Serval believer and connoisseur, then, you know, definitely put on that before dawn, you know what I'm saying? Definitely put that on. Also, big thing to keep in mind of Jing Yuan's weapon is that for this Somnus Corpus, you will not be able to proc this on Serval if you are using it on her, because she doesn't have a follow-up attack. So you are missing out on this follow-up attack damage that increases by 48%. Do keep that in mind. But you probably won't be using that for your Serval, because you'll probably be wishing for Jing Yuan, unless you're a whale and you're wishing for multiple of them, I mean, you know. And then we have Himiko's weapon. Himiko's weapon's pretty good overall. You're going to be breaking a lot of shields with Serval, because you're probably going to be playing into lightning weak enemies. So you're going to get that 30% pretty often. And then you just have a 9% base attack for every enemy on the field, and then you get more. So overall, Himiko's weapon, Jing Yuan's weapon, very good. Then we have Seriousness of Breakfast, and Today's Another Peaceful Day, really good. And then we have Serval's weapon, really good filler until you get one of these two, because damage percent is going to beat you just having ultimate damage. This is really good though, especially like open world if you just want to clear out enemies, because you'll start with your burst. All right, let's talk about the Eidolons for Serval. So Serval's Eidolons are actually pretty good. Her first Eidolon is going to give you Echo Chamber, which makes it so after you do a basic attack, you're going to do another attack to an adjacent enemy, and it's going to do 60% of your attack's damage, which is pretty nice. But I need to talk about the big E6. At E6 Serval, she loses her. For E2 Serval, you have Encore, which makes it so she gains 4 energy every time she does damage with her talent. So you're pretty much going to get energy anytime you attack someone, you do it. So that's 4 energy, 4 energy, 4 energy, 4 energy, 4 energy, 4 energy. It's a lot of energy. You could generate a lot of energy with this if you have really good shock up time. Then you have Listen to the Heartbeat of the Gears, which is just a talent booster. Pretty nice. It gives you 2 to your skill, 1 to your basic attack. Really nice. Then you have your 4, Make Some Noise. Ultimate has a 100% chance to apply shock to enemies not shocked. This is really good for shock up time if you're fighting enemies that are more than 3, because your E can only hit 3 people. But if you have your ulti, now you have shock on everyone. You don't have to refresh it as often. You can be way more skill point efficient with this, even though Serval is already very skill point efficient, which is nice. Then you have Bellabog's Loudest Roar, which is just another booster. This gives your ultimate 2 points and your talent 2 points, which is really nice. Just, you know, little stat booster. And then we have the infamous E6. Oh my god. This song rocks to heaven. Serval does 30% more damage to shocked enemies. This is really good. This is like a huge damage increase. Pretty much, you have good shock up time. You're always doing 30% more damage. You're probably always going to be doing 30% more damage anyways, because it's really hard to not keep good shock up time unless you're just trolling. Or you have an enemy that cleanses himself. All right, and coming in last but not least, how do you build teams with Serval? So Serval teams are pretty easy to build. You're pretty much going to have Serval. She's your AoE DPS. You're definitely going to want a single target DPS for her, like when you're bossing or something like a Don Hang. If you want, like, example for a really free-to-play team you could have going on, you could have a Serval, a Don Hang, a Natasha, and then like a Fire MC, you know? So here you have Shielder, a healer, you have AoE damage, and you have single target. But this also can change based on the shields you're breaking, the teams you're playing against or something. So for example, like in the simulated universe, versus Kafka, this is the team I used. But let's say I'm fighting like robots that are weak to like the ice or whatever, you know? I could pull out the Yanqing, or I could pull out a Herta, or March for extra ice shield break, you know? And I also have been all the way up to 6. I'm waiting to get to level 40 for the second difficulty of World 3 in Simulated Universe. For that, I used Asta, because now I have double shield break. I have speed boost for Serval, so she's getting more damage out, and I have more shield break, which is really nice. Another team you can do is a Serval, like, dedicated team like this. We have Ting Yun give you a damage buffer. The problem is, when you ever add more sub DPS, your team becomes really squishy, because you don't have someone like, you know, more Tink in here. Tingyun is really squishy. If you know Yai from Genshin, she is like exactly as squishy as she is. She feels like paper. You get attacked like one time, I feel like I lost all my HP. I feel like it's just wraps after I get attacked one time. You could also put a Payla in here. Say you need Ice Shield Break again. I could have said that earlier, but I forgot. That's pretty much it for teams. Her teams aren't too crazy. Now, when Kafka comes out, Kafka is supposed to be a good support for her, but I don't know what Kafka does, so we'll find out when Kafka comes out. But she's supposed to do pretty much what she does in game, like most characters do when you fight them. They kind of do like the same thing when you actually play as them, which is kind of cool. So she's probably going to do something like, you know, stun, slow, charm, all that stuff. She'll probably do something like that, but in game, which is kind of cool. So that about wraps it up for the team section here. This is a very good example. Free-to-play team, this can get you through most content, even if you don't have a weakness. Okay, there's no way an enemy doesn't have weakness to one of these 4 elements, though. It's really impossible. Unless it's one of the enemies that's imaginary only, then that's it. Overall, Serval is a very solid character, especially if you put in the fact that you get her for free. She has insane AoE damage. She even rivals some characters. The only reason she's going to get beat in the future is Jing Yuan right now, and maybe other characters that release in the future, but I think she's always going to be relevant. That'll be it for this guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is my second guide that I have ever made overall for like a game. I made one for Genshin, and now this is my second guide, but on Honkai. So if you enjoyed this, or you have criticism, I'd love it in the comments, and I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/gibbb. I'll have it on screen. I'd love to see you there. And if you have any criticism, you know, drop in the comments. Goodbye.